Is the proposed elephant management reserve in Hambantota being cut down in secret? Will the decision taken by the Sri Lanka Medical Council regarding the 3 Russian universities lead to a diplomatic crisis? Tensions rise in parliament over the swearing in of Premalal Jayasekara. Opposition leader claims 2 clauses in the constitution have been violated. Presidential Commission receives report stating that Ranil's office of the Anti-Corruption Committee spent 30 million rupees over 3 years. South Africa faces risk of another international cricket ban.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime News, coming to live and direct from the Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. I'm Bernadine Chai Singha. Let's now take a look at local news. Deforestation has been taking place on the land area allocated for a proposed wild elephant management reserve in Hambantota. Area residents say that certain entities are using the land for cultivation activities.
In 2009, a land area had been allocated for a proposed wild elephants management reserve in Hambantota to resolve the human-elephant conflict in the area. Area residents said that certain entities have been clearing the land and occupying them for several years. These were the scenes that were captured in the Elala village last afternoon.
ගමේ නෙවෙයි ගමේ පිටින් ඇවිල්ලා ඉතින් කට්ටිය ඔක්කොම මේ ඩෝසර කරලා වගා කරනවා. ඉතින් ගමේ කෙනෙක් ඇල්ලුවොත් ගමේ රාළහාමික් කියනවා. දැන් දැන් මේ අපේ වතුර පොල් පැල ටිකක් හිටවන්න ගත්තා. ඊට පස්සේ අනවසරයි කියලා අපිට හිටවන්න එපා එක්ක ඒ වෙලාවෙත්.
වනජීවියෙක්වත් The Wildlife or Forest Department has not taken action against this. It is the henchmen of parliamentarians and ministers who are involved in this. If villagers do this, they would be punished.
The Hambantota District Coordination Committee that convened recently had discussed on attempts to illegally acquire state-owned lands.
Farmers must be given ownership of the land if they have cultivated on it for a very long time. Some groups are clearing the land using bulldozers. Be cautious about that. I received photographs from officials. These groups have cut down large trees and are deceiving us.
During the meeting, political representatives in Hambantota district said that farmers who have engaged in cultivation on the land for several years must be given its ownership. However, officials took steps to clear banana cultivation in the Walava area that had been taking place on land owned by the Mahaweli authority. This was done to hand over the land to a foreign investor. A young farmer had cultivated bananas across 2 acres in the area.
I was overseas for a very long time. I had to return to Sri Lanka due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I earned a living through this cultivation, which I have been doing for 4 months. I have spent 2 million rupees on this.
මේක ආයෝජන මණ්ඩලයට වෙන් කරපු ඉඩම්. ඉතින් අපි දැන් මේක ආයෝජන හෙට අනිද්දා වෙනකොට මේ නව රජයත් එක්ක මේකට ආයෝජක එනවා. ඉතින් අපි ආයෝජකයන් මේක නිදහසේ තියන්න ඕනේ. ඉතින් මේක දැන් මේක අල්ලගත්තාම අපි එන ආයෝජකයන්ට මොකද්ද කියන්නේ?
මේක මහවැලි දැන්ද?
මහවැලි ඉඩම්.
අපි දැන් කෙලිම මහවැලි මේකට දුන්න ලියුමක් අපි වගාව කරන් අයින් වෙනවා කියලා.
ඔව්. නමුත් දැන් අපි ඔබතුමා හිතන්නකො දැන් මේකට තව මාසෙකින් ආයෝජකයව කියලා. ඒකට අපි මොකද කරන්නේ? අපි කෙහෙල් වගාවත් එක්ක දෙන්න පුළුවන්ද? දැන් ඔන්නේ එදා ඔයගොල්ලන්ට දෙනවා කිව්වා අද කෙහෙල් වගාවක් තියෙනවා. එහෙම කියන්න බෑනේ.
ඕගොල්ලෝ දැන් ආයෝජන කරලා මේක මනත් කියනවා රයිට්. ඔකට කුමුරුත් ආයෝජන කරලා අයින් කරනවා. මේ බොරු වැඩක් නෙමෙයි අක්කර 5000ක්. මම එනකොට ජීනුන කවුද? ඔයගොල්ලෝ උඩ බන්නද මේක? කුමුරු කොටරට ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඉන්නේ. අපි කුමුරු ගන්න
Russia has expressed concern over the delisting of 3 Russian universities by the Sri Lanka Medical Council without any prior notice. The Cultural Division of the Russian Embassy in Sri Lanka in a statement said they hope that the SLMC decision will not influence the practice of providing Russian state scholarships to Sri Lankan citizens in the future, causing a loss of opportunities to young individuals to pursue their higher education free of charge in prominent Russian universities.
A decision was reached to delist the People's Freedom University of Russia, formerly known as the Patrice Lumumba University, the Pirogov Russian National Research University and the Tver State Medical University from the Sri Lanka Medical Council approved list of universities. The cultural section of the Russian embassy in a communique said, with a history of over 60 years of diplomatic relations between the countries, Russia has been awarding Sri Lanka with scholarships from state universities for Sri Lankan students to pursue their higher education. They add that if these benefits are not received, it would cause a loss of opportunity to young individuals to pursue their higher education. Previously, when Sri Lanka attempted to impose a ban on asbestos products, trade relations between the two nations were affected. Although no direct link was officially announced, shortly after the ban on asbestos was announced, Russia took steps to halt the import of tea from Sri Lanka, citing the discovery of a bug in a stock of tea. Russia is the biggest international tea market for Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka export tea, and also we have a heavy traffic of Russian tourists into Sri Lanka. The trade is heavily in favor of Sri Lanka. They have been a real true friend of us. Recently, there are some issues with regard to decision taken by the medical council. So we need to keep our friendship with Russia at the highest level. Sri Lanka depend on Russia for export of tea. So I request the health ministry to look into it.
The Government Medical Officers Association said that the Sri Lanka Medical Council must issue a statement clarifying their actions.
The Medical Council has the power to look into a university registered with the body, and if there is a problem with the standards of those universities, they can take action against these universities and delist them. The Medical Council took similar decisions in the past as well. They have delisted many institutions. The issue we have right now is that the underlying ambitions of certain members of the Medical Council are unclear. We have a very simple request from the Medical Council right now. If you took these steps in good faith, please explain to the country and the Minister of Health the reasons behind this decision.
Let's now take a look at some of the views expressed by the Secretary to the Ministry of Internal Security, Home Affairs and Disaster Management, retired Major General Kamagunaratne, during a workshop in Colombo today.
I don't follow a political agenda. I received numerous requests from leaders to contest from Colombo. However, I said that I don't have an agenda to that effect. When I was appointed as the Secretary to the Ministry of Internal Security, Home Affairs and Disaster Management, there was a disturbance created among state officials. That is because there is a senior additional secretary in an institution falling under one ministry. I have met him only once during the last 5 months.
මම එතුමාව දැක්කේ එකපාරයි. එතකොට මට එතුමාව මතක් වුණා මං මෙතුමාට ගියා මං අරතුමාව.
I then told this officer behind me that I would release this official so that he can be appointed to a position based on his wish. You can raise arguments based on the directives in the 1986 circular. That won't work. I haven't memorized circulars, nor have I worked with them. However, I know that I can manage things properly. I know how to utilize a person to get the job done.
නමුත් මම දන්නවා මට හොඳට මැනේජ් කරන්න පුළුවන්. දන්න මිනිහගෙන් වැඩේ ගන්න මට තේරෙනවා.
The workshop has been organized for officials in the public administration service on implementing a work plan and identifying key areas under the manifesto titled Vistas of Prosperity and Splendor.
The debate took place in Parliament over the swearing in of parliamentarian Premalaja Sekara, who is on a death row. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa raised this matter during today's session as well.
1982 සෙල්වරාජා යෝගචන්ද්‍රන් එහෙමත් නැත්නම් කුට්ටිමනි නමින් හිටපු
In 1982, former parliamentarian Selvaraja Yogachandran, alias Kuttimani, who served as the Tello leader, was named as a parliamentarian under the Tamil United Liberation Front banner. The election commissioner gazetted his name as a parliamentarian and notified the speaker and the parliament secretary general regarding this. He was a person sentenced to death under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. When Yogachandran had appealed against his sentence, he was not allowed to take oaths in parliament. The speaker at that time did not allow him to take oaths under Article 89 and Article 91 of the Constitution. Former Speaker Bakir Makar set an important precedent under that policy. The decision that you made a few days ago was done in violation of Articles 89 and 91 of the Constitution and also against the precedent. Why aren't you taking steps to follow that precedent? I wish to regretfully say that your decision has violated Articles 89 and 91 of the Constitution.
සමවන ව්‍යවස්ථාවත් 91 වන ව්‍යවස්ථාවත් ඔබතුමාගේ තීන්දුව මත උල්ලංඝනය වෙලා තිබෙනවා කියන එක මම කනගාටුවෙන් ප්‍රකාශ කරන්නට ඕන.
අපිල් උසාවියේ තීන්දුවක් අපිට එවලා තියෙනවා. ඒ තීන්දුව අනුව අපි කටයුතු කළා මිසක් අපි ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් වග විභාග කරන්න ගියේ නැහැ.
අධිකරණයටවත් ඒ විනිසුරුවන් පිළිබඳවත්
We don't want to talk about judges and their rulings. However, we do not approve what is being done against conventions. Are these provisions more powerful than Articles 89 and 91 based on what we know?
තියෙන තවත් ව්‍යවස්ථාවක් අපි නොදන්න ව්‍යවස්ථාවක් තියෙනවද මේ රටේ?
හරි බණ්ඩාරනායක මැතිණියට විරුද්ධව ගෙනාපු විභාගය
ඒක මෙතෙන්ට අදාළ නෑ නේ ගරුවේ මන්ත්‍රීතුමා. අපි මේ වෙන ප්‍රශ්නයක් ගැන කතා කරන්නේ. ඔතන මේ සභාව නොමග ගෙනියන්න මේ උත්සාහ කරන්නේ. සභාව වෙනත් මාර්ගයක ගෙනියන්න උත්සාහ කරන්නේ.
නෑ මම කියන්නේ මන්ත්‍රීවරේ විරුද්ධ වීම පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට අයිති වැඩක්. It's a matter for parliament. මේ තර්ක ගෙනීමේ ක්‍රමවේදය සම්පූර්ණ වැරදි. නමුත් අපේ මන්ත්‍රීතුමාගේ අයිතිවාසිකම් මේ යලි නැති බව ප්‍රකාශ කිරීම ඉවත් කරන ලෙස හැන්සාඩ් වාර්තාවෙන් ඉවත් කරන ලෙස අපේ මන්ත්‍රීවරයාට තිබෙන අයිතිවාසිකම් නෑ ඒක කරන්න පුළුවන්. You have no right to canvass to deprive the MP of his rights.
මුළු රටම ඒ වගේම අපි හැමෝම අවබෝධ කරගෙන
The entire country has a right to know. You are not a dictator. Therefore, you have a responsibility. You can't erase our remarks from the Hansard. I put forward a very important judgment. When such a matter is put forward, how can you ask for it to be removed from the Hansard?
සල්ලිකින් ඉවත් කරන්න ගියේ.
නෑ ඒක අපි පස්සේ තීරණය කරමු. දැන් අපි ශෝක ප්‍රකාශ යෝජනාවට යමු.
ශෝක ප්‍රකාශයට අපි යමු.
Let's go for the condolence motion. But I put forward a proposal. Therefore, I am requesting you to refrain from removing it from the Hansard.
කරන්නට එපා.
අපි දැක්කා ඊයේ පෙරේදා ගාඩියන් පුවත්
We saw media reports published by key international media outlets like The Guardian and New York Times, including your name on the swearing in of the parliamentarian. It had been reported in a manner that tarnishes the image of our country. I feel that as a person chairing the legislature, if you do not rectify this situation by following the examples set by former speakers such as Anwar Bandaranaike and Bakir Makar, this is a disgrace to the country. Please take steps to rectify this situation.
Members were appointed to the Committee on Public Accounts of COPA and the Committee on Public Enterprises of COPE in Parliament today.
22 members have been appointed to the Committee on Public Accounts. The 22 members are Udaya Gamanpila, Duminda Disanayaka, Dayasir Jayasekara, Lasanthalaya Wanna, Dr. Sudarshini Fernandapulle, Shihan Semasingha, Prasanna Ranavira, Professor Tissavitarana, Upul Galapati, Gunapala Ratnasekara, Veera Sumana Veera Singha, Professor Ranjit Bandara, Muhammad Muzammil and Qadar Mastan from the ruling party, and Tisat Naika, Harin Fernando, Niroshan Pereira, Faisal Qasim, Ashok Habe Singha, Dr. Harinamara Surya, Buddhika Patirana and Sridharan from the opposition. The 22 members appointed to the Committee on Public Enterprises are Mahinda Maravira, Mahinda Ananda Aludgamage, Rohit Abe Gunawardana, Susil Prema Jayanta, Jayanta Samaravira, Dilum Amanugama, Indika Nurudda, Sarat Veerasekara, D.V. Chanaka, Dr. Nalaka Godaheva, Ajit Nivad Kabral, Pushpa Kumara, Premanatsi Dolawata, and Tardek Herat from the ruling party, and Rauf Hakim, Anup Kumar Disanayaka, Patali Champika Ranabaka, Iran Vikramaratna, Ranjan Ramanayaka, Nalin Bandara, S.M. Marikar, and Sanakya Rajaputiran Rasamanikam from the opposition.
It is with this Auditor General all the committees of Parliament have always operated. We saw how much was unveiled by the committees of the COPE and COPA led by Sunil Handunati. How many people of the then government fell into trouble? The Auditor General had no power to speak against the government. He can't be transferred. Deputy Auditor General isn't afraid of the President or the Prime Minister. That's because neither the President nor the Prime Minister cannot transfer him, which is the only way to stop him from getting promoted. Members of the opposition do not have the authority to conduct investigations into the audits of the government institutes. What are these people saying? They are saying that it can't be done and that the chairman of the COPE and COPA committees have to be one of their ministries. What are they doing? They are abolishing the Procurement Committee, Audit Commission, and they are trying to remove chairmanships of the members of the opposition from the parliamentary committees, and they are acting according to their wishes. Is that for the people? Will development happen like that? If not, will corruption happen again under the guise of development?
එහෙමත් නැත්නම් සංවර්ධනය මුවාවෙන් දූෂණය වැඩිපුර සිද්ධ වෙයිද?
A revelation has been made stating that 33.7 million rupees had been spent for the Anti-Corruption Committee Secretariat during 3 years since it was established in 2015. This was stated in a report submitted by the Prime Minister's Office to the Presidential Commission probing incidents of political victimization.
According to the report, 13,432,283 rupees had been spent from February to December in 2015 for salaries, allowances, telephone, electricity and water services, overtime payments, vehicle maintenance, fuel, stationery and other expenses. The total expenses incurred by the Anti-Corruption Committee Secretariat in 2016 stood at 14,066,507 rupees. According to the report, the expenditure for 2017 stood at 6,216,016 rupees. When the report containing these statistics had been presented to the Presidential Commission, its chairman Upali Abhiratna stated that large-scale corruption had taken place in the body that had been appointed to probe corruption. Accordingly, he ordered to release the report to the media, stating that corruption must be exposed. Meanwhile, former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, who gave evidence before the Commission on the 4th of September, said that certain activities of the Anti-Corruption Committee Secretariat had been carried out unlawfully. He had noted that the institution had not been established under the law. Ranil Wickremesinghe had told the Commission that former President Maithripala Sirisena, leader of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna Anura Kumara Dissanayake, Rajitha Senaratne, Patali Champiko Ranawaka and Tamil National Alliance leader R. Sambandhan served as members of the committee. Was the Anti-Corruption Committee Secretariat able to impose punishments on those involved in large-scale fraud and corruption? The people of this country have now realized the answer to this question. Regardless of whether any action was taken against the corrupt individuals, it is now clear that public funds worth more than 30 million rupees had been spent for the committee for 3 years.
Testifying at the Presidential Commission probe in the 21st April 2019 attacks for the fourth consecutive day, former Chief of National Intelligence Sisira Mendes stated the police failed to take appropriate actions to arrest Zaharan and his group before the attacks.
In his testimony, Sisira Mendes noted that before the attacks, he felt the National Tawhid Jamaat should be banned, but he never made such a proposal to the higher authorities. Further testifying, the ex-CNI said both the Directorate of Military Intelligence and the State Intelligence Service had pointed out 6 organizations in total to be banned, but only 3 extremist organizations, including National Tawhid Jamaat, Jamaat-e-Millat-e Ibrahim and Wilayat As-Seilani, was banned, and the other named organizations, All Ceylon Tawhid Jamaat, Sri Lanka Tawhid Jamaat and Ceylon Tawhid Jamaat, were not banned. Mendes pointed out that the reason for not banning them was that they did not show signs of extremist ideology similar to the NTJ, but they are being monitored. In the latter part of the evidence examination, the commissioners questioned whether Mendes, as the CNI, had a close working relationship with the ministers of law and order whom he served under. Replying to the query, Mendes said that he had never met or talked to former Minister Sagala Ratnayaka when he was a subject minister, as well as to Ranil Wickremesinghe or Ranjit Madduma Bandara while they were serving as ministers of law and order during his course of tenure.
In more local news, State Minister of Money and Capital Market and State Enterprise Reforms, Ajit Niwad Kabral, has called on financial institutions to offer a debt standstill for the year 2021 for all emerging and developing countries. The State Minister made these remarks at the meeting of finance ministers during the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development.
The State Minister added that such a move will be in keeping with international financial institutions such as the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank mandate, and will also enhance the ability of affected governments to provide much needed assistance to their people. He said it will also enhance global economic and financial stability, which is a prerequisite for sustainable development. Speaking further, the State Minister said that the economic fallout caused by COVID-19 has left developing nations in a vulnerable economic condition, and that those countries need to be protected with a vaccine in the form of a debt standstill by the global community. The State Minister concluded his remarks by saying that if that is not done, and consequently any vulnerable economy were to falter, like so many businesses have failed, the fallout could seriously affect global economic stability as well. Meanwhile, non-performing loans at Sri Lanka's commercial banks grew to 5.3% of total loans by June 2020. The percentage in March was at 4.9%, while at specialized banks, NPLs rose to 7.1% from 6.6%.
MP Iran Wickramaratne says that Sri Lanka will have to face the biggest budget deficit in 35 years this year. He made the statement while commenting in Parliament yesterday regarding the current financial situation of the country.
Under the previous government, Sri Lanka achieved an improved fiscal position after several years. The budget deficit was kept at 5.3% of GDP, the lowest level since 1977. By the end of 2019, it had started to deteriorate. And one of the main reasons it had started to deteriorate is because of the government's irresponsible statements in the run-up to the election on taxes, and the fiscal position has deteriorated. Situation has got progressively worse in 2020. Government revenue has declined by 28% compared to 2019. Recurrent expenditure has increased by 10%. The budget deficit has increased by 41%. Capital expenditure has reduced by 44%. And government debt has increased by 1,000 billion in just 6 months, rising from 13,000 billion to over 14,000 billion from January to June in 2020. As the year progresses, the additional cost of a 10% increase in government staff cadre, the import ban will start to hit government revenue in the second half. Corporate taxes will be sharply down, and Sri Lanka should prepare for its worst budget deficit in 35 years.
While touring the length and breadth of the island across the island, our government teams met countless people who are suffering with no way of even obtaining a loan. The number of unresolved issues are countless. The government team even today visited people living in rural Sri Lanka, and this is their story.
The daily sufferings encountered by the people of Dehigaspa Akuresa can be experienced while on this boat ride. This contraption barely passes off as a boat. Even toddlers have to use this mode of transport. The Nilvala River is infested with crocodiles, and they are eagerly awaiting for this boat to capsize. What is most surprising is that these people use this boat even though it capsizes frequently. It capsized even this morning. The child who fell into the river this morning, however, was saved before the crocodiles could get to him. This is the only path that can be used by residents of Dehigaspa, Belian Kandura, Nilmanik Gama, Diavaragama, and a number of other villages. Despite the grave and real danger to their lives, these people are left with no choice but to gamble with their lives, as the eyes of officials have not yet noticed their plight. Residents of Mahakumbuk Kadavala, Galkulia, Wuharia, Egodagama, and Kohumbagasweva in Putlam are under lockdown after 5 every evening. This is not because of the coronavirus outbreak, but because of the threat of wild elephants. Wild elephants encroaching from the Tekakale Forest Reserve took the lives of 8 people during the past 3 months alone. When our the teams visited these villagers this morning, the trail of destruction left by wild elephants were still visible. The pleas of these villagers to officials for an elephant fence have fallen on deaf ears. This village desperately needs an elephant fence. The bank accounts of the people in Tavasi Kulama were full only a few weeks ago. They were given 100,000 rupees by authorities to construct their houses, although they were promised further support to construct their homes. That promise was not acted upon. These people told us that they would even settle for a simple community hall if they are not receiving further support to construct their homes. Our journey in search of the people's plight is not without obstacles. In the face of these challenges, the team will push onwards to shed light on the true lives of our brothers and sisters.
300 trainee nurses of the 2017 team of the Colombo College of Nursing completed their first year and assumed duties of the second year today under the patronage of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa at Temple Trees.
We saw that the health sector is facing various issues. It is the people who suffer because of that. After considering all these issues, the people have given us a strong mandate to resolve them. To make use of that mandate, we need your support. Our government has already planned a program to extend this training to a degree. I think it is a must to do so. Accordingly, our objective is to convert this 3-year diploma to a 4-year degree program. It was in this stage where this diploma was formed under the leadership of the Prime Minister. It was a concept introduced by the President. He mentioned that a degree must be given. I trust that by the end of this year, you will be awarded a degree.
The Colombo Chief Magistrates Court was informed today that the captain and the sailors of the oil tanker New Diamond have set off on rescue boats without informing the relevant authorities. This was when the Criminal Investigations Department reported facts to court on the oil tanker that caught fire in Sri Lankan waters recently.
Deputy Solicitor General Dileepa Piris, who appeared for the Criminal Investigations Department, and the Attorney General informed court that the captain and the sailors of the ship had not used the latest equipment on the vessel to douse the fire. The Chief Magistrate granted permission to the CID to record statements from the crew, including the captain of the New Diamond vessel, and to obtain samples from the Marine Environmental Protection Authority to conduct investigations into the oil that spilled into the sea. Accordingly, the court ordered the Navy Commander, the Coast Guard and the Director General of the Department of Coast Guard to assist the CID in its investigations. Our correspondent reported that the Chief Magistrate had ordered the Operations Director of the vessel's company to provide a copy of the details recorded on the GPS machine on the vessel that had been sailing under the flag of Panama. The Deputy Solicitor General also told court that the ship had been transporting 270,000 metric tons of fuel when it caught fire, and that a large amount of fuel had also been stored on the vessel for its usage. He added that samples obtained from investigation officers had showed that the oil had spread across an area of 1.6 kilometers in the sea. The Deputy Solicitor General pointed out that the marine life had been affected drastically as a result of this. The case is to be taken up for further hearing on the 29th of September.
The brother of Australian cricketer Usman Khawaja, Arsalan Tariq Khawaja, has apologized for causing his colleague Mohammad Qamar Nizamdeen, a Sri Lankan student in Sydney, after he jealously framed him with false terrorism claims.
The man who caused the Sri Lankan student in Sydney, Mohammad Qamar Nizamdeen, to spend a month in jail over an alleged notebook with plans on killing Australian politicians, has tearfully admitted his false accusations in an Australian court. The 40-year-old Arsalan Tariq Khawaja, giving evidence at the hearing in the New South Wales District Court, pleaded guilty for perverting the course of justice and dishonestly influencing a public official. In August 2018, Australian police arrested Sri Lankan student Mohammad Qamar Nizamdeen over a notebook with entries including death threats against then Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and the Governor-General, as well as plans to attack police stations, an Anzac Day ceremony, the Boxing Day test match and landmarks including St. Mary's Cathedral. Nizamdeen was then arrested and held in a high-security jail for 1 month until the truth was uncovered. Arsalan Khawaja then admitted for forging entries in the notebook of his colleague Qamar Nizamdeen in August 2018 after being jealous of his conduct with a woman friend. The sentence hearing will continue on the 2nd of August 2020.
A press conference to commemorate the World Suicide Prevention Day was convened by Sri Lanka Sumitriyo yesterday. Views were expressed on the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic and coping skills for the new post-pandemic realities.
The press conference was held under the theme Answering the Call, Responding to Post-COVID Challenges and Building Resilience.
Too often we underestimate the power of touch, a smile, a kind word, a listening ear, an honest compliment, or the smallest act of caring, all of which have the potential to turn a life around, which we have experienced. So we ourselves feel that what we are doing is just a drop in the ocean, but the ocean would be less because of that missing drop. So never fail doing something, how small it is, it really makes a difference and you feel good about it.
ලංකාවේ සිරිහානි කර ගැනීම අඩු වුණේ ඇයි මෙච්චර කල් කියන එක පිළිබඳව හොඳ අවබෝධයක් නැත්නම් අපිට
සහ දැන් ඇයි මෙතනින් එහාට වැඩි වෙන්නේ අඩු වෙන්නේ නැත්තේ තව දුරට කියන එකට විද්‍යාත්මක ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහලා ඒක අපි නිවැරදිව දකින්න පුරුදු වෙන්න නැති තාක්කල් මේකට වඩා දියුණු වෙන්නේ. So the question is, are we doing the right thing now? Individually probably yes, but when it comes to public health and for the country, are we doing the right thing? Are there any external factors which we haven't internalized? How are we to envision a theory which will change Sri Lanka for the betterment to bring down suicides in the whole country, considering the determinants of suicide?
The South African Sports Confederation and Olympic Committee has instructed the board and senior executives of the South African Cricket Board to step down from their positions. The sports body has said that it will appoint a team to conduct an investigation into the affairs at Cricket South Africa.
According to foreign media reports, the panel will make findings and recommendations within 1 month of finalizing the members of the team. It will be tasked with probing corruption and irregularities in the South African Cricket Board. The South African Sports Confederation and Olympic Committee has also instructed the Chief Executive Officer of the Cricket Board to step down from his position. The former CEO of the Cricket Board had been fired last month after a forensic report revealed acts of serious misconduct at the Cricketing Authority. The South African Sports Confederation and the Olympic Committee that met last Thursday had unanimously decided to launch a probe into the members of the Cricketing Authority. The investigation comes amidst the failure of the Cricket Board to submit the forensic report to the South African Sports Confederation and the Olympic Committee. However, Cricket South Africa has said that it does not accept this intervention. In a tweet, the Cricket Board said that it hopes to obtain legal advice regarding the matter. The decision taken by the South African Sports Confederation and Olympic Committee is yet to be determined whether it is against the regulations of the International Cricket Council.
With that, we wrap up Prime Time News. I'm Bernadine Shai Singha. Good night. Take care.